It opens today, a one-year window in New York State for victims of child sexual abuse to file claims against their abusers and the institutions that they say failed to keep them safe. No matter how long ago the abuse occurred, hundreds of cases have already been filed. Governor Cuomo signed the Child Victims Act into law in February. It's the result of years of work on behalf of victims by people like Catherine Robb and Steve Jimenez. And they join me now. Steve, Catherine, welcome to Chasing News. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Catherine, Steve, let me ask you this. Do you think this opens up the floodgate that could do real damage? How do you prevent someone today that had nothing to do with the past from being hurt by this? And have you not just given a golden ticket to the trial lawyers?
No one is giving a golden ticket here to anyone. I'm certainly not doing that, and I don't think Catherine is, and I don't think that's the case with most survivors. But let me just mention something. I first went to the order that was involved in my abuse back in 2002. And they just put my abuser's name on a list that was made public a couple of weeks ago. Why did it take 17 years for them to put that abuser's name on the list and put the name of other abusers? So I want to just say that this is about protecting children, and it's about shifting an entire culture.
But again, nothing in this law talks about criminality, talks about empowering law enforcement. You've got people that are accused of being repeat offenders, that there will be no legal consequences outside of money.
So you cannot retroactively change criminal statute of limitations. It's unconstitutional. But nonetheless, our civil system of justice is there for a reason. And if people can sue for all sorts of different things, why in the hell can't they sue for the wrongs that happened to them as kids when they were raped, sodomized, or sexually abused?
Okay. Thank you, guys. I do appreciate your time, and I'm certainly sorry for the struggle and the suffering that you have both gone through. I appreciate being able to talk about it openly with me tonight. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Catherine.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Earlier today, I also spoke with Matt Haverstick. He's an attorney who has represented some of the institutions who have been sued in Pennsylvania, in particular, two major dioceses. And he had this to say about the unintended consequences of opening up a law like this.
Organizations susceptible to dozens or even hundreds of massive lawsuits like this and massive exposure trend toward bankruptcy or insolvency. And now in New York, if you see, as I expect you will, a multiplicity of lawsuits against public institutions like public schools, well, they can't go bankrupt. That means people's taxes go up as they support the really large settlements and jury verdicts.
Let's bring in tonight's A-plus panel to talk about this a little more. We've got Afia Yunus, immigration attorney. Good to see you, Afia.
You too, Bill.
And attorney and publisher of the Save Jersey blog, Matt Rooney. Good to see you, Matt.
Great to be here, Bill.
Afia, I'm going to start with you on this. I want to address the unintended consequences. You heard from Matt Haverstick, and even when we talk to our two victims, it's open-ended. This could be potentially very crushing to some of these groups that had nothing to do with the abuse.
Well, I don't see it as open-ended. It does seem like there's just a one-year time span that this can actually happen. And also, number one, the victim has to be alive, and the institution has to still be in existence for them to go after it. And you're also assuming that the perpetrator is not alive, that they're not actually going to go after the perpetrator. So I think there's a lot of moving variables here.
I would agree with that. Matt, this almost speaks like the discussion in Washington about slave reparations. You know, you talk about how the institution of the country should be held accountable, and that means people today should be paying. Fair or not fair?
It's absolutely not fair. I mean, look at the institutions you're harming. Despite the few individuals that did horrendous things, and if they're alive today, I hope they're drawn and quartered. The Catholic Church, our public schools, they do amazing things for our citizens every day. What we just heard is they want to change these institutions. Many of the people that caused these problems are long dead and buried or bounced out of their jobs.
But they also need to be made whole, and they're also seeking justice. This is also about reparations and making these victims whole.
I don't think closing churches and schools is going to make anyone whole. It's just going to hurt all of society.
We're going to have to leave it there, though. Thank you, guys.